So to begin with, let me just share the slide. So we are going to start with the basic web development understanding and what's web, how does it work, and then from there we are going to pick up the core components. I would say for introduction session today and tomorrow, I'm going to give you a high level understanding like how HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are connected, how we can implement it, and what's the purpose of these three technologies, right? So to begin with, we are very much familiar with World Wide Web, also known as Internet. So it's connection of numerous billions of servers or machines across the globe. So they are connected with each other, and so they provide a very huge network to retrieve information from anywhere. Okay, so if you have an internet connection, that means you are connected to that network. So there is a chain of these networks. Okay, so it's like a network, a web. Okay, जिस तरह से spider web वगैरह होता है उसी तरह से. And what are these servers? What's the purpose of those servers? Let's say my laptop is also a server. Okay, but when I'm going to enable the configurations कि भाई this server or the some of the applications that I have deployed here, that should be available on the internet. That means कि someone else, maybe one of you students, should be able to access that particular application. Then only you will be able to do that. Okay, so usually जो भी website builders होते हैं, all the websites, all the web applications, so think of like Facebook, Instagram, and all, so they have kind of a hardware. So more like you can think of having a RAM or something like that. Or usually अगर आप internet पे search करोगे server rooms, so there is like I would say racks of these horizontal slabs, so which are nothing but that is hardware and RAM. Okay, तो वो hardware वो जो RAM है, so into that you have everything installed. You have your operating systems, and then you have a web server that makes that application available. Okay, so through that you have written the logic how Instagram works, and like that service also connects with the database where information is stored. Okay, so database are to keep the information like for a longer period of time. So this is the real picture how web actually works. Okay, so if we see at the high level, so this is like us, the users who will try to connect through a browser. So you need to have an interface like through which you can connect, and usually it is browser. Even on the mobile applications, you have usually either it's a browser or it's an application. So application also behaves like it is doing the same operation. It's connecting with a server, retrieving the information, or there could be offline application which works into the app itself. Okay, so which does not need to connect with the internet. But usually nowadays, all the applications are like online. So even if their functionality is offline, they can fair be like to retrieve the ads or the subscription and all those things. So that type of information is still online. So they have to connect with the server. So when we are connecting on a browser, let's say we are typing a username, like sorry, this domain, a URL. So let's say you are typing youtube.com. So what this is called the domain name, okay, or the URL. So from this domain name, so there is a server which is called a DNS servers, जहाँ से हम इस नेम को परचेज कर सकते हैं. So these are the providers. They say कि भाई you want to give a name to your website. Okay, so let's say I want to create kashmirbasket.com. So I'm going to go and I'm going to go to companies who have DNS servers. So these are called name resolvers. They are going to resolve this name with a particular IP. तो वो आपको kashmirbasket.com, they are going to give you that name. So when they are going to provide you that name, that means they are taking responsibility. Whenever in the world anyone is going to access this particular name, they are going to resolve it. They are going to provide them configuration कि इसको कहाँ जाना है. Okay, so that means Kashmir Basket will be hosted on a particular machine. So I'm going to create an application or a website and I'm going to host it on a particular server. ठीक है, उसके बाद this name will be connected to that server. So there is a configuration. It will say this is my server and this is my I would say my domain name. And who is going to resolve that? Who is going to tell कि ये particular domain name के लिए request इस server पे जाना चाहिए? So that's one in a billion, right? So billions of servers are there. लेकिन who will tell it कि किस server पे जाना चाहिए? So that service is called domain name resolvers or domain name services. Okay. So these systems or these service providers are like widely available. So that's their agenda, right? So it cannot be a small company. It has to have like huge number of servers across the internet. So जब भी कहीं इंडिया से कोई रिक्वेस्ट जा रहा है, that request need not to go to US first name resolve करने के लिए. Otherwise, it will take too much time. So there has to be servers in India, in Pakistan, in everywhere, right? So what do they do? They simply provide the mapping between कि ये नेम इस मशीन को जाएगा एंड वेयर एवर दैट मशीन इज लोकेटेड. आपने इंडिया में रखा है तो इंडिया पे जाएगा. इवन इफ समवन सर्चेस फ्रॉम यूएस, so it will still go to India and it will connect with that server. Okay, so regions will matter कि आपका सर्वर कहाँ पे hosted है. Okay, so you will see sometimes कि whenever you access Netflix or whenever you are going to access any particular application that you know is localized to regions like UAE or like USA or Canada or whatever. So it is going to take comparatively more time. But if it is global, that means कि उन्होंने maybe they have hosted at different places. उन्होंने USA में भी एक सर्वर रखा है, UAE में भी रखा है और इंडिया में भी रखा है. So that might be the case. So when the request goes to the DNS servers, it's going to resolve, it's going to translate and provide a particular IP address. IP address is the numerical numbers, dotted numbers given to a particular machine that you guys know. Every machine has an IP address. So that based on that IP address, so your web server or your internet will definitely know कि उसको कहाँ जाना है. Okay, so it's going to find that through the routes, and there are a lot of algorithms कि through internet that request is going to flow from server to server, and then it will reach the destination, right? So usually how does all of this behave? Okay, तो आपकी रिक्वेस्ट जो है whenever you are going to connect based on the domain name server, it is going to connect with the server. That's your this server is your could be your web server जो आपको फाइल्स प्रोवाइड करेगा. आपका HTML CSS जो है वो जावास्क्रिप्ट है, all those things. Okay, so that will be presented onto your application first. Okay, so then comes the picture कि वो information कैसे retrieve करेगा. Now the HTML and CSS do not have that information. Okay, so let's say I'm going to provide username password and who will authenticate. आपका वो लॉजिक यहाँ पे नहीं होगा because you will have access to this code directly. Okay, जो भी आप यहाँ पे access करने जा रहे हैं वेब पे, you will have access to it directly. But the resolver or the business logic that you are going to write has to be on a different server. Again, that will go through the similar route. That will be DNS server, will go connect with the server, and that server will be known as the backend server. Okay, तो वो जो है वो आपको खाली डेटा प्रोवाइड करता है. It does not provide you files, but the web server is going to provide you some files. It is going to provide you HTML, CSS, images, videos, everything जो आप front end पे देख रहे हैं. That's called a web server. And if you are going to make a request for a business logic, that is going to go to the backend server through the same route. ऐसे ही जाएगा. आप डोमेन नेम प्रोवाइड करेंगे, आगे कुछ पाथ प्रोवाइड करेंगे, आगे कुछ पाथ होगा, लेट्स से आईडी और समथिंग. It will go to domain name server that will connect with the server and it will get back to you, okay, with some data. So how to picture, like how to visualize this, इसको अगर सही से समझना है, so how can we actually do that? That is the purpose के HTML CSS जो है that technology got built, right? So there came HTML. HTML is hypertext markup language. It's a code used to structure the web content. जो भी आप फ्रंट एंड पे देखते हैं, आपके मोबाइल एप्लीकेशंस पे, आपके आई वुड से ब्राउजर पे, जो भी चीजें आप देखते हैं, so you can see that with the help of HTML only for now, right? So it will be HTML. Even if you are using advanced frameworks or something, they are using purely JavaScript and all, but that also gets converted. उसको वो translate करता है और HTML की फॉर्म में यहाँ पे दिखा देता है. So it has different tags. So it's markup language means it's a semantic language. आपको आपके पास tags होते हैं, start tag and tag. So I'm going to show you that. And then from there you are going to create a particular web page. Okay. So how do we get started? So first thing, I'm going to download a software called VS Code. Okay. Although I can go and I can create this in a simple notepad as well. But since we are going to learn the tools along the way, so we have to learn everything, right? So this is usually what the developers use. So we're going to download an open source, I would say, code editor. So that's called VS Code, okay, Visual Studio Code. So you are going to download this. So it is free to use, and there are like licensed versions also, but you don't need usually that. So you have to go and you have to download that, right? So next thing that you are going to do is this is how my VS Code looks like once it's installed. So this is my VS Code. I'm going to go and create a folder, a new folder. So that will be my today's project. I'm going to say demo one. Okay, so this is an empty folder. It does not have any file for now, and I'm going to use this, right? So let me begin by downloading some extensions, some helpers I'm going to download. Okay. So it provides an option here called extensions. So you are going to download it. One of them is called Prettier. It is going to format your code. आपको वो अगर किसी भी तरीके से लिख रहे हो, it's going to format that. It is going to write in an organized fashion. And second one, you should download live server. Okay, live server launch like it's like a deployment like local server. आपका जो local machine जो है, it treats that like a local server. Okay, so you can locally access it from your own laptop, from your browser. You can go and you can access it like a server, and it is going to reload dynamically whenever you are going to change something. It is going to reload automatically. Okay, so what does that mean? I'm going to go inside this demo one folder, which is empty for now. I'm going to create my first file. I'm going to name it as index.html. Right? So this is going to be my HTML file. और HTML फाइल को क्रिएट करने के लिए यहाँ पे आपके पास शॉर्टकट है HTML5. ठीक है, so when you are going to say HTML, so you are going to say HTML5 was an option. Yeah, HTML sample. So you will get an option here, and it's going to install. It's going to like create this syntax for you. Okay, but this is not all. We are going to use much more. So let's go one by one. So the first tag, that doc type that you are using here. So this like this particular tag mentions that we are going to use the latest version of HTML, which is called HTML5. Okay. उसके बाद इस HTML फाइल से 5 से आप क्या करते हैं? So you are going to have a tag here called HTML. So that is going to be your first tag, and this tag is going to get closed here. So whenever you are going to write it, let me just write it here again. So I'm going to say HTML. You are going to open and close. Okay, ये automatically कर देता है आपका open or close. And then you are going to say head, open and close. And in head you are going to write something. Okay, so there will be tags like title. Title is going to be name of your page. I would say my first page. Okay, either you use the shortcut or you can write it on your own. So there are going to be more tags, let's say meta or something. So this is some additional information provided to the browser, right? But we don't need that right now. So this is how you are going to link your CSS file. This is how you are going to link your JavaScript file. But again, we are going to pick this later. Okay. And this is going to be your main body. Fine. So I'm going to say hello world. Now let me just explain what really is going on here. Okay. So I'm going to keep this. आपका head है, you have a title, you have body and HTML tag. That's all. So this is going to be your web page. Now think of it like this is like a complete website. मान लीजिए कि आपने पूरा tag वैग डाल दिए. So you have created complete. You have added images into it, text into it, and we have to learn how to do that, right? So now, before that, let me just make you understand कि web का क्या मतलब है. When we are going to say there is a server and you are going to connect with that, what does that story mean? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to first check this index.html. I'm going to go retrieve that file onto the desktop into this folder. Okay. So I'm going to directly launch this index.html. So if you see, it has retrieved this index.html and browser has a capability to render the HTML file. ओके, ब्राउजर क्या करता है, उसी फाइल को रेंडर करता है, मतलब जो आपने टैग्स दिए हैं अकॉर्डिंगली इट इज गोइंग टू बिहेव, इट्स गोइंग टू शो यू सम डेटा. For example, I have said, like I have mentioned that I'm going to write hello world in the body. But if I'm going to add one more tag here, let's say h1 tag, okay, और इसको मैं h1 tag के अंदर लेके जाऊंगा. Now see what's going to happen. So you won't see any change क्योंकि आपने उसको directly pick किया है. So you have to actually refresh. It is still reading the previous. And now with the help of h1 tag, it is going to create it like a heading tag. जिस तरह से आपके पास if you have used Microsoft Word, you have headers, titles, h1, h2, h3. So that's the weight of the text that you are going to show. You want to show some text in bold, some text in normal. So उसी तरह से h1, h2 tags है यहाँ पे. So now your text is going to look like this. Okay, so based on these tags that is there, that are provided, so it is going to behave differently. So similarly, there are tags for images, tags for paragraphs and others. So we will go through them one by one. Now let me show you कि browser कैसे काम करता है. कोई भी browser ले लो, whether it is Chrome, whether it is Firefox, आपका I would say Microsoft Edge. So all these browsers. Okay, so what do they do? So they have some functionality here, and this functionality maybe you may not have accessed it before, but this functionality is called developer tool. So this is meant for the developers. When they are building something, they have to use this tool. So you have to simply go right click on the application and say inspect. Okay, or there is an option of F12. So when you click function key F12 on the laptop, it will open. Okay, तो यहाँ पे अगर आप देखोगे your first section is called element section. It is going to give you the information what's your HTML like, right? This is my information, right? It is my HTML. This is what I have written and I am seeing it here. If I am going to change it in the backend, like here, it is going to get changed here. Then I'm going to refresh it. मुझे जब refresh मैं जब refresh करूँगा आपको यहाँ पे दिखेगा. So console is going to give you some messages if you are going to print that. For that, you have to use JavaScript. Source is the file. It is going to give you the access to the files, all the static files, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, जो भी web server provide कर रहा है, all those files will be accessed here. And the network is the connection with the internet. Okay, तो मैंने अभी कुछ ऐसा नहीं किया. I have not connected with the internet, and I don't want to retrieve any information for this, right? So, but let's think of retrieving the real application. Let's say YouTube. I'm going to go to YouTube. Okay, so let me just open. Okay, so now let me see what exactly is happening here. Okay, on to YouTube. If you will see, and it could be any other website, कोई भी website आप ले लो, उसका behavior इस तरह से होगा. Okay, it is going to like work like this. It will have some HTML. That HTML could be developed by like maybe HTML CSS, or it could be developed dynamically by the JavaScript or any other framework. Okay, that could be your Angular, React.js, Vue.js, whatever it is. So based on that, you are seeing different tags here. You are seeing head, you are seeing body, you are seeing HTML. Okay, तो उसी तरह से आपका ये यहाँ पे दिख रहा है. So you have option here to inspect किसी भी element को अगर आपको pick करना है, so you have to simply click on this arrow and go to that, and it will tell you how is this element created. So it is nothing but it's an image. Okay, so SVG is a type of an image that is actually provided on the HTML. So with this SVG, you will see there is this image provided, and whether it's a text or an image, So it is there. Okay, maybe this is also an image, YouTube in. So it's not a text. And here this search, it will be definitely a some text. Okay, अगर इस search को यहाँ पे देखोगे, so it's a input field, and the input field, its placeholder is search. Okay, so we have to understand all of these tags. Form tag क्या होता है, input tag क्या होता है, div tags, paragraph tags, all these things. Okay, so next thing, you have some console. It's going to give you some information कि what exactly happened, and this is up to the developer कि वो क्या information provide करेगा. Whether he is going to provide some message. YouTube में किसी ने ये message डाल के रखा है, मतलब into the code, so that's when you are seeing this. And if there are any issues or errors, for example, it's not able to solve this particular request, कोई एक image fail हो गई, तो it may have retried or it may have fetched it from a different source. तो यहाँ पे आपको वो वो इंफॉर्मेशन भी मिलता है कंसोल के अंदर. सोर्स इज गोइंग टू गिव यू एक्सेस टू द फाइल्स. जो भी आपका HTML, CSS, जावास्क्रिप्ट, जो भी स्टैटिक फाइल्स है, फॉन्ट्स है, बाकी सब चीजें हैं, CSS फाइल्स होंगी काफी सारी, तो उसका एक्सेस आपको सोर्स में मिलेगा. एंड नेटवर्क, नाउ लेट्स गो टू द नेटवर्क. दिस इज व्हाई आई एम हियर. Network is the connection to the internet. Okay, so if you guys come from computer science background, so you must be already knowing there is a concept of TCP/IP or HTTP protocol. So it's a set of rules that is defined onto the internet, and it says how can you send some information from one place to other place. That means from one machine to another machine through internet. So this application, this API, this request is actually following the rule of that HTTP. ओके, जो HTTP या TCP के जो प्रोटोकॉल्स है कि किस तरह से ये कनेक्ट करेगा. सो यू गाइस शुड लर्न अबाउट इट. सो इट इज गोइंग टू फॉलो द सेम प्रोटोकॉल एंड इट्स गोइंग टू कनेक्ट द इंटरनेट. अभी इंटरनेट को कैसे कनेक्ट करेगा, इट इज गोइंग टू डू दिस. इट इज गोइंग टू फर्स्ट पिक द डोमेन नेम. So this domain name will go to the DNS server. DNS server is going to say, okay, youtube.com is hosted on ABC machine. Like that could be any particular IP, whether that's in Mumbai or that's in Delhi, it's going to connect with that. And you have to connect with this, okay, on a particular path. And this is the information that you want to fetch. And there will be some request parameters also, request headers. So this is going to define which particular video I want to access. So based on these parameters. So it doesn't mean anything to us, but for the server, उन्होंने ये random keys वगैरह के साथ किसी वीडियो का नाम इस तरह से रखा होगा. It's easy for the computer, right, to match it. हमारे लिए याद रखना बहुत मुश्किल है. But for computers, it's okay. They know कि अगर ये की है उसी के साथ मैच करेंगे, and then they will find that video, and you are going to see that video. Make sense? So from like something like this, along these lines, this is how your internet works. अब ये कहाँ जाएगी ये request? It will go to YouTube server, and from that it is going to retrieve the information. And there will be different levels of information. आपका आपकी static files. That means कि आपका HTML, आपका CSS, आपका JavaScript. फिर requests to the APIs, to the server, जो business logic वगैरह retrieve करना चाह रहा है. It wants to get details about your subscription, your I would say your own videos, your notifications or something. So that's not in my computer. मैंने वो कभी सेव तो नहीं किया है ना, तो वो कहाँ पे है, वो सर्वर्स पे है. So it's going to make a request to the server, which is going to be your app server or application server, and it's going to retrieve the information. Now let me show you how will you I would say, create a similar type of environment onto your own laptop, and then that will give you complete understanding. So instead of launching this index.html directly on the page, what I'm going to do, I'm going to launch it here. I'm going to say go live. ये go live कहाँ से आया ये option? It is because of this extension called live server. Okay. तो जब मैंने live server यहाँ extension install किया, it is going to give me option to go live. So what actually happened? If you see, there is something called as port number. Port number are gateways to your laptop. कि आप आपके लैपटॉप को कैसे कनेक्ट कर सकते हैं. So how do we usually connect? लैपटॉप को कनेक्ट करने के लिए usually वो use USB pin, USB ports, right? Or whatever it is. It could be like nowadays we get that Type C port also. Okay, it could be USB port, it could be HTML port. Similarly, there are, I would say, virtual ports also. Okay, these are physical ports. आपका एक physical चीज, एक hardware item आप connect कर सकते हैं. But if you have to connect the virtually, that means कि आप through internet or something you want to connect. Again, a laptop, and these I would say these ports, USB ports and everything, they will also have a number, something like this: 808080818082, something like that. Okay, so now if you want to provide something onto the internet, or you want to make something available, even if that is local. Okay, तो मैं यहाँ पे क्या करूँ, it's going to provide me a port that I can access locally. उसको मैं खाली अभी अपने ही लैपटॉप से डायरेक्टली उस पोर्ट को कनेक्ट कर सकता हूँ. But instead of reading this file directly from the file itself, okay, I am reading it through a server. Server as in एक machine है, which is nothing but my own machine. It is going to host your application. It's going to say, okay, I am owner of this. Now when the request goes to that, it is going to connect with that particular application and it's going to give you that data. So what actually happens now, if you see, it's, we are not saying that we are reading file directly from this particular path, but instead we are connecting with a domain name or an IP address. This could be a domain name. I will say, instead of this is IP address of my local host, इसको आप local host करके भी लिख सकते हैं. That's the domain name of my machine. अपनी ही machine पे मैंने अपना ही एक server बना लिया. So think of it like a small internet that is within my machine. मेरी machine के बाहर इसको access है ही नहीं. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to do this and this. Okay, so with the help of localhost, now your laptop is going to resolve, okay, localhost point us to this particular IP, and it's going to connect with that IP address, which is nothing but your local machine, at this particular port, and it is going to retrieve this information, which is nothing but index.html. Okay, any guy like any doubt here, anything, guys? तो इस तरह से आप आपके सर्वर जो है वो बिल्ड करते हैं. बट व्हाट विल बी द नेक्स्ट स्टेप नाउ? व्हाट इफ आई वांट टू मेक दिस अवेलेबल टू समवन एल्स थ्रू द इंटरनेट? तो मुझे क्या करना है? मुझे एक पब्लिक आईपी लेना है, दैट इज माय लैपटॉप्स आईपी, लाइक or maybe my like I would say when I'm connecting with Wi-Fi or something, I will have my own IP. Okay, so on to that I have to make that available. For that there are some configurations. You have to use a web server. Okay, so Microsoft provides a server, IIS servers or something like that. So you have to do those configurations. फिर कोई भी अगर आपके नेटवर्क में होगा, that could be an internet, that could be a LAN or something, so through that they can access this code also, they can also see this code. ओके, लेकिन उसके लिए अलग लेवल ऑफ कॉन्फ़िगरेशंस वगैरह रहती है, so we don't have to go there. ओके, सर्वर्स वगैरह कैसे काम करते हैं, दैट्स नॉट आवर हेडेक. we just have to create an application, उसको यहाँ पे डालेंगे, and then tomorrow when you are going to create the real application, again you don't have to worry about कि सर्वर वो नेम वगैरह कैसे रिजॉल्व होता है. दैट्स अ डिफरेंट साइंस ऑलरेडी. ओके, दैट्स कॉल्ड नेटवर्किंग. तो वहां पे जाने की जरूरत नहीं है. तो you will just use that particular software, install it, I would say configure it, and it will make it available to the internet. तो कोई भी इंटरनेट पे होगा वो पर्टिकुलर आईपी लेगा, एंड दैट वोंट बी दिस, दैट कैन नॉट बी लोकल होस्ट और 127 और समथिंग. दैट विल बी माय आईपी. इफ आई एम गोइंग टू सर्च माय आईपी एड्रेस, व्हाट्स माय आईपी एड्रेस, तो मेरी मशीन का आईपी एड्रेस क्या है राइट नाउ, सो दैट्स गोइंग टू बी दिस. और अगर मैं चाहूँ इसी आईपी एड्रेस को एक नेम दूंगा, तो वो नेम मुझे कहाँ से लेना है शबश? फ्रॉम डोमेन नेम सर्वर्स. ओके, जो डोमेन नेम सर्विस प्रोवाइड करते हैं, सो कंपनीज लाइक GoDaddy. अगर आपको कोई भी नेम लेना है डोमेन नेम, so you have to, let's say, companies like GoDaddy. Okay, and there are a lot more. GoDaddy है, Hostinger है, Namecheap है, and many other I would say domain name providers. Okay, so with this you can go and these service providers provide you a DNS service. Okay, that's going to resolve your name. Okay. Uh, so hope you guys understand this now better. Any questions here, guys? Okay. Now our job is to create a web application which हम build करेंगे that's going to be useful. Okay. जो हम real world as a real application we are going to solve it. Okay. So for that you have to learn the complete CSS, complete HTML, and you have to also learn JavaScript. Okay. For definite reasons, क्योंकि JavaScript जब आप use करोगे that's going to help you to understand कि how you can work dynamically. चीजें आप रन टाइम पे कैसे बिल्ड कर सकते हैं. सो व्हाट डू आई मीन बाय दैट इज, सो थिंक ऑफ लेट्स से फेसबुक, आपका टाइमलाइन जो है फेसबुक के अंदर. सो व्हाट डू यू थिंक हाउ द टाइमलाइन इज बिल्ड? टाइमलाइन जो है दैट इज क्रिएटेड बाय ऑन द फेसबुक, दैट इज क्रिएटेड बाय सम टेक्स्ट, मे बी सम इमेजेस, सम वीडियोस, सम इनपुट्स, कमेंट्स वगैरह के लिए आप इनपुट्स प्रोवाइड करते हैं. एंड दैट इज नॉट क्रिएटेड बाय कंप्लीट HTML alone. ओके, लेकिन आप क्या करते हैं, आप जावास्क्रिप्ट लिखते हैं एंड दैट इज गोइंग टू प्रोवाइड यू सम डायनेमिक सिंटैक्सेस. ओके, सो इट इज गोइंग टू हेल्प यू टू क्रिएट दैट एट द रन टाइम. ओके, तो वो कैसे करते हैं वो इंशाल्लाह हम सीखेंगे. सो नाउ लेट मी जस्ट बिगिन विद सम लेवल ऑफ सिमेंटिक टैग्स जो इनिशियली यहाँ पे यूज होते हैं. ओके, so there are these tags which are called like root or core tags, HTML, head tag, body tag. And then there are more tags which are called semantic tags. For example, header, which is going to structure your application or your page. So in a header, you may have a nav bar. So because of this idea, because of this application that I'm using, it is going to give me some automatic options. Apart from that, I have used some, I would say, AI assistant tools. So which you guys have to learn because it's very common nowadays. So आपको कोड वगैरह अभी वो खुद बना के देगा, but your job is to understand कि आप क्या बना रहे हैं. So nav tag is another form of tag. It's going to give you a navigation bar. जो आप ऊपर header usually देखते हैं वहाँ पे options देखते हैं, home, about us, careers, something like that on the website. Another tag that I'm going to create is going to be main. So main is going to be my main body. So where I'm going to like I'm going to keep the real code or the real business logic of the like of that application कि क्या दिखाने चाहिए, purpose क्या है इस application का, whether that is some information or something. And then finally there is going to be footer. So in footer you are going to say something like कि for my first page. Okay, तो अगर आप अभी इसको देखेंगे, now that I have saved this, it is it gets automatically updated onto your live server. और जब आप इसको लाइव सर्वर पे चेक करोगे, you are going to see it like this. So this is your nav options and maybe from this you can connect. आप बोलोगे about पे जाएगा तो वो दूसरे पेज पे चला जाएगा. Okay, so this is how your page will look like now, right? So there are going to be more tags. For example, there is going to be due tag. So with the help of due tag, what we are going to do is we are going to provide like some structuring to the application. जैसे एक section और दूसरे section को हम अलग अलग कर देंगे. So I'm going to say div here. Okay. So it's going to be something like this. So this page, this image is not genuine. So instead, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick up some image. Okay. So I'm going to say textile image, something like this. I'm going to pick up any of the image and pick up the URL, copy link address, pick up that address, show that here, and you will be able to, for this, it's usually not accessible outside. Okay, so I'm going to pick up this URL and you will be able to see this. Okay, तो आप आपकी images यहाँ पे दिखा सकते हैं. Now your job is to structure it. उसको किस तरह से दिखाएंगे so that कि you can show image on the left hand side, on the right hand side. So to give you an example, for example, we are going to pick up a template. जैसे मैंने ये यहाँ पे gardening की है application की. So now how does this work? So it is nothing but I have used a navbar. I have used some image here. I am using some CSS to make this float. Okay, ये जो यहाँ पे changes हो रही है ना, ऊपर नीचे जा रहा है, ऊपर नीचे जा रहा है. That's a very advanced form of CSS. CSS is your styling. You want to show this in the center. You want to show this on the right hand side, on the left hand side, that you can control. Okay, with the help of CSS कि उसको कहाँ पे दिखाना है. Again, this is an image. This is an image. So that is how beautiful and how well you can design an application. But for that you have to go deep. Okay, तो आपके HTML tags, आपके syntaxes वगैरह वो सब चीजें समझनी है. So how do we apply some CSS? For example, I'm going to go and apply some CSS onto this image. Okay, so उसके लिए I'm going to inside the header I'm going to create a tag called a style. Okay, and I have to provide a selector here. Okay, it is giving me options to create some CSS itself, but I'm not using that. I'm going to provide a selector. Selector is the name given to a particular tag जिससे मुझे वो recognize हो जाए. I would know. Okay, so there are two types of selectors. One is called ID, another one is called image. Sorry, see class. Okay, आपका जो class है that can be repetitive. मल्टीपल टैग्स को आप सेम क्लास नेम दे सकते हैं. यहाँ पे क्लास में दूंगा आई वुड से मेन इमेज. फिर नीचे एक और इमेज होगी उसको भी मैं सेम ही क्लास दूंगा. फिर जब उसके ऊपर CSS डिफाइन करेंगे मतलब उसका स्टाइलिंग कैसा होगा वो दोनों पे अप्लाई होगा कॉमन. बट फॉर आईडी इट इज गोइंग इट आइडियली शुड बी वन. इट शुड बी वन ओनली. आईडीज रिपीट नहीं होनी चाहिए एंड दैट्स डेवलपर जॉब टू मेक श्योर कि आईडी एक ही है, यूनिक है. तो दूसरा मेन इमेज करके कोई आईडी नहीं. वी शुड कीप इट यूनिक. विल से इमेज 1, another one will be main image 2. So I'm going to pick this, and for IDs I'm going to use hash, but for classes I'm going to use dot. That is how I recognize कि इसका मतलब कौन सा selector किस particular tag को मैं point कर रहा हूँ, with the help of a class or with the help of an ID. So I'm going to pick up ID here. ठीक है, और इस आईडी के हिसाब से आई एम गोइंग टू डिफाइन विड्थ इक्वल टू. सो लेट्स सी. सो आई एम गोइंग टू से विड्थ इक्वल टू इंस्टेड ऑफ 50 आई एम गोइंग टू से 200 and height is going to be, let's say let's say height is 200 and width is going to be 100%. Okay, now see what will happen if I go to my page again. अभी इससे पहले अगर आप देखोगे आई एम गोइंग टू रिमूव दिस, कंट्रोल एक्स. यू सी इट इज दिस इज द डिफॉल्ट साइज. इमेज का डिफॉल्ट साइज यही था. अभी जब मैं इसको यही CSS प्रोवाइड कर रहा हूँ कि विड्थ 100% ले लो, सो नाउ इट लुक्स लाइक दिस. इट इज गोइंग टू टेक कंप्लीट 100% विड्थ. ओके, आई कैन शो इट स्मॉल. आई कैन से दिस इज लाइक 100 पिक्सल एंड दिस इज योर इमेज हाउ इट लुक्स लाइक. फिर अगर उसको दाएं बाएं ले जाना है आई कैन इवन डू दैट. ओ दैट इज द डिटेल डिस्क्रिप्शन हाउ CSS वर्क्स. ओके, तो इस तरह से हमारे स्टाइल जो है, स्टाइलिंग टैग्स जो है वो यूज होते हैं. और इस तरह से हम किसी with the help of the selectors, whether that's an ID or a class, I can go and I can give it. For example, here I'm going to give class. Okay, and classes could repeat. Okay, I'm going to say it is nav item. nav bar का एक item है. ठीक है, so I'm going to give, make sure you provide the spaces like between this, and you are going to say dot nav item, and I'm going to give it some margin. I'm going to say give some text decoration, and I'm going to give some color. Let me change the color to green, and let me give another. प्रॉपर्टी लेट्स से बैकग्राउंड कलर। अभी आप बोलेंगे सर आप मतलब ये जो चेंजेस कर रहे हैं यू आर डूइंग इट ऑन योर ओन, तो हु इज गोइंग टू टेल अस कि कौन सी चेंजेस कहाँ पे चाहिए। ओके, ये सब जो चेंजेस है ना, so you have to like the properties that you have to do. So we are going to work on some core understanding. Usually जो मतलब कुछ कुछ आपकी जो properties है they are common. Let's say we have font size, we have font family here, we have font style, font width. That's to play with the fonts. कौन सा font use करना है. And then you have background properties. Properties for if you want to provide an image, what should be the size, filters वगैरह वो सब चीजें, color वगैरह क्या होगा. And there is going to be something called as margin and padding. Okay, so उसके लिए we are going to go through that once. We are going to understand कि हर एक प्रॉपर्टी का मतलब क्या है, but there is much more to it. अब उस प्रॉपर्टी के हिसाब से you have to change the value of that, कि आप अगर बैकग्राउंड देना चाह रहे हैं किस कलर का देना चाह रहे हैं, so to make it more elegant and smooth, that is your job. वो आपकी क्रिएटिविटी है, आप कितना अच्छा उसको दिखाना चाह रहे हैं. सो यू लाइक आई वुड से दीज आर लाइक द स्केच पेन्स. लेकिन स्केच पेन से कुछ भी बना सकते हैं. अगर मैं दी स्केच पेन मैं कुछ भी गधा वधा कुछ भी बना लूंगा, लेकिन वो ऐसा नहीं दिखेगा कि तुमको समझ आए, राइट, किसी और को समझ आए. बट इफ आई गिव इट टू अ पेंटर, ही मे क्रिएट अ प्रॉपर स्केच कि एक बंदे का बिल्कुल सेम फेस बना, right? So these are like sketch pens, but the creativity that you have to show, that's in your own hands. Okay, so you guys have to explore कि उसको better कैसे बनाएंगे. Now let me show you something. Now it looks like this, very ugly. It's not good at all. तो आपको definitely इसको change करना पड़ेगा. So based on the CSS. Now let's say you want to validate कि इसका CSS क्या है. So now again coming taking the advantage of this developer tool, you will see this style. And I'm going to select go to the neighbor and you will find कि जो CSS मैंने यहाँ पे provide किया था. Now if I'm going to do some alterations here, I can first test कि भाई ये कैसा दिखेगा instead of that brown color or whatever I had used, chocolate color, sorry, that was green color. So now I am giving black. Okay, so I can simply test, उसको confirm कर सकते हैं कि ये क्या है. This is called the hex code. This is a code for a color called the hex code. So based on this, you can change it at the runtime, but this is not present in the code. Code में आपने अभी change नहीं किया है. If you want to change that, you have to pick up that color and you have to edit here. ठीक है, तो इस तरह से आपका वो परमानेंट चेंज हो जाएगा. अदरवाइज अगर आप इसको यहाँ पे चेंज कर रहे हैं, लेट्स से आई एम गोइंग टू कीप इट रेड, इट विल लुक रेड, बट एज सुन एज आई एम गोइंग टू रिफ्रेश इट इज गॉन, क्योंकि आपका जो कोड के अंदर जो चेंज है वो यही है. So if you are going to make any changes, just to validate it here into the style section, किसी भी एलिमेंट को ले लो, राइट साइड पे आपको स्टाइल सेक्शन और कंप्यूटर स्टाइल दिखेगा. कंप्यूटर स्टाइल एज इन कि हर एक सिमेंटिक टैग पे कुछ सीएसएस ब्राउजर अपने हिसाब से डालता है. समटाइम्स यू विल सी कि आपका एक बटन है एप्लीकेशन में जो डिफॉल्ट बटन रहेगा, वो क्रोम में कुछ अलग तरीके से दिख रहा है और एज में कुछ अलग. यूजुअली इफ यू सी दीज गवर्नमेंट एप्लीकेशंस वेबसाइट्स, तो उसके उसका जो नेचर है थोड़ा सा चेंज हो जाता है. ओके, दैट्स बिकॉज ऑफ द डिफॉल्ट सीएसएस बाय द ब्राउजर. ओके, so tomorrow we are going to detail out what are the different tags in the HTML, and we are going to detail out on the styles, and I'm going to give you some introduction how JavaScript is introduced. Now again there is another tag called script into which I can write some code. ओके, जैसे मैं यहाँ पे console.log लिख रहा हूँ तो वो मुझे यहाँ पे दिख के आ रहा है. ओके, so if you do that type of coding, so you can do some functionality. So this is like the function. Okay, with the help of JavaScript, I can, this is the JavaScript code, I can do that. Okay, and again we have to go back and we have to take a deeper dive कि JavaScript क्या है, what was the origin and how do we start, what are the data types and all those things. Okay, जिस तरह से कोई भी लैंग्वेज सीखने के लिए आप क्या सीखते हैं, usually we start with the alphabets, right? English language सीखना है तो ABCD सीखना पड़ेगा. Then go to the words, go to the sentences, and then you can go to the paragraphs and all. Likewise, for a language, for a programming language, you have to learn data types. You have to learn the control statements and all, and then you have to go to the problem solving. Okay, because whole purpose of any programming language is to solve the problems. उसको कैसे structure करेंगे, उसको कैसे use करेंगे to give the optimal results and everything. That's the purpose of a programming language. So we have to pick that from scratch. So for today, I'm going to give you the glimpse. Any questions, any doubts, anyone? Okay. So we're going to keep our classes brief, something like this, pure hands-on, pure coding, and I want you to be as much as interactive. जितना हो सके आप क्वेश्चंस पूछिए because like let's not be students anymore. So be like a coder, and if you have to actually build your career like around this, so you have to be very curious, very passionate about it. So you should try to find more answers, more details. Okay. So inshallah, I'm going to do my best. That's all I have to share today. Thank you so much.